Nice out here.
Which is a wonderful thing.
You guys ready? Call this meeting to order. Those in attendance, please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all of our friends and neighbors and colleagues for joining us in this regularly scheduled March 21st, 2022 City Council meeting. As you come in, the door which would be to my right, to your left, there's a desk, there's a sign-in sheet on that desk. If you're a guest with us tonight, please sign your name. City Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Soha,
Present.
Briner,
Here.
Beer,
Here.
Morrissey,
Here.
Sharp,
Here.
Stuchel,
Here.
Pratt, Sizer,
Here.
and Mayor Stockford.
Here.
You have 8 present, Mayor.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into approval of agenda items. Does the city manager or any member of council have any changes to make to the agenda tonight? We all received an email from Mr. Lashaway. Would have been 3:57, asking if the attached letter be included in the packet under communications.
You have a copy? I didn't get that email yet.
RG.
Yeah, I just had to check my emails.
I have a copy for you.
Okay.
You want a copy?
Will you hand it to Katie, please, and have her?
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Beer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. That will be communications item number F, Lashaway letter. Do I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Soha. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilmember Briner,
Yes.
Beer,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Pratt, Sizer,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Soha.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into public comments on agenda items only. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium, and please ensure if you're commenting on something that it has a direct tie to something that's present on the agenda tonight. Podium is now open.
On my letter, I'd just like to ask that, you amend your ordinances or something to that effect, the way you did with the housing, to where a private contractor can go in and check out the building, inspect the building. Like, I was under the impression, I was told by some board members that that was acceptable for commercial buildings, but apparently it's not. But your Alan Beaker does have the ability to accept my report, he's just refusing to, as per my letter. But like that, somewhat commented on tonight, thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Any more public comment?
Hey guys, council, mayor. It's called American Patriot Parade. To us, the parade is a celebration of liberty, not about big business in town celebrating their staff. We're not exclusive to anyone, including the Democrat Party. This is not a partisan issue, and it's not a Republican Party parade. We encourage everybody to join and participate. Why can't the hospital or anyone else do their thing still? Nobody's preventing anything. In fact, for the record, Teresa Rutan and/or the Hillsdale County Republican Party is willing to meet with anybody for any reason to make anything happen. We are the team player here. If the deciding factor is whether big companies can come in and buy the parade, could Ford Motor Company come in and get approval over the hospital? What if I turn in 10 years worth of applications? Nobody likes the idea of big business shutting down local common people. Remember, this is a county-wide effort as well, not just a city effort. Am I under the impression that this council, instead of having a very patriotic parade held by some of the most patriotic people in your county, would rather play politics because of a last name association? In 2020, some people called it the Rutan for Sheriff Parade. Last year, those same people called it the Republican Party Parade. For this year, I can only imagine the nickname, but it is time to grow up. People like Teresa and others have stepped up when many of you have dropped the ball. It is not our job to force those individuals that don't like us to like us or to work with us. It is their own duty to do what is right, and now we are demanding the respect. Teresa Rutan is the salt of the earth woman. She is the epitome of a local grassroots patriot that supports liberty. She has earned all of your respect, and you should give it. So please, tell me with full honesty, if you will, what has been wrong with the parade for the last 2 years? Teresa right now is open to your ideas. It needs your physical help. We would love to have you all participate in this great day to fully support liberty over bondage and honor those great men and women of 1776. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any more public comment?
Hey, I am Teresa Rutan, and I am here to speak about the parade. I can't say it any better than what John just said. It is a parade to celebrate our independence for the 4th of July. It's not a Republican rally. It's a parade for the community so we all celebrate our independence. We've always welcomed everybody, and we still continue to welcome anybody who would like to participate. I did hear Mayor Adams say that they did receive emails from Lance Ledgeway, but I got an email from John Rutan that was addressed to all of you folks too, so I don't know if you received that one. So just want to make sure that this gets entered into the minutes as well, if you folks have all received that one. It was sent at 3:59 p.m.
We did get a, email from John Rutan, and, he did say, I'm sorry I missed it, at the bottom it says, please enter a copy of this into the official record under correspondence for the meeting dated March 21st, 2022. So we'll make sure that the email gets in the packet. I don't think there needs to be a separate correspondence, since the item's already on the
Sure, no,
agenda
that's
as 4th of
fine.
July parade, so.
Yep, that's fine. But I do think there was something else on that more than just the 4th of July parade as well. Okay, so I just want to,
I'm sorry about that, Teresa, and I don't mean to interrupt you, I can read it during the.
yeah, no, that's
July
fine,
parade.
that's fine.
My bad.
So, you know, we're not here to cause a riff about the parade. Everybody enjoys the parade. We all want to participate in the parade. So we're hoping that there's a peaceful resolution to the situation that we have at hand. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Teresa. And once again, I apologize, I missed the part about the email that said to add it under correspondence. I will read it, and when I read it during old business, it will become part of public record. So, my bad. Podium's still open.
Penny Swan, Ward 4. I'll echo what John and Teresa said. If the Republican Party hadn't stepped up 2 years past, there would have been no parade, and they were hugely attended And we actually reached out to the Democratic Party. Anybody was invited to come. It was not closed to anybody, so, and as far as I know, you guys could correct me if we're wrong, Republican Party had all their proper paperwork in 2 weeks ago, before anybody else, so I think that should be taken into some consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Any more public comment?
Dennis Wainscott, 34 Garden Street. Yes, I think it's a shame that each and every one of us here have to even hear about this. Because we in turn, as individuals, we're supposed to be a body. You are supposed to be a body of this city. And if we turn around and we fight against one another, how strong can that body be? We're not out there to make a parade for this group or that group, but as a body of Hillsdale and Hillsdale County, that they can come together as one to celebrate what? The people that died and bled for us, for our country, to keep us safe, to give us the freedom to go forth. Is this something that we have to continue on and on and on and on? This is time that we stand up as a body and say, let's all work together. You all confess, I believe every one of us sat here and confess to be Christians. But what kind of Christians are you? Are you the type that are sounding brass and tingling cymbals, or are you the kind that's going to stand up and do what's right? It's time that we put away childish things. We're supposed to be men, women. We're supposed to be grown up. It's time to put away these childish things of fighting one another and stuff. And it's time to get up and do stuff that is right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. I feel like there's some misunderstanding here, like council's been, I'm sorry for interrupting you, and go ahead and take the podium, but council hasn't made a decision on anything, we haven't been fighting about anything. We're just looking at a couple applications for parades, so there really is no controversy here. Sorry, continue.
My name is Carol Lackey, and I'm representing today the Mitchell Research Center, which is located in the Mitchell Building, which was once the library. Our organization consists of volunteers only that share with the public information not only on genealogy, but on city history, on buildings, on anything of interest in our community. When CL Real Estate came to town to research the Kiefer House, they came to the Mitchell Research Center, and I spent a lot of hours with that young man working on the building and the buildings next door. When Monique Sarles wanted to open a store and wanted information on the old Hayes Handy building, I spent time with her and providing her with information. When Cindy Bezick moved her Hillsdale filling station upstairs from downstairs, we helped her with pictures and information on the blog. And when Andrew Gelzer, the current president of TIFA, needed local research for his new hardware store, he came to us, not just to get pictures, but information and family information, which included his grandmother, who was a former member of our organization. And I believe I'm not sure if JJ is a cousin or an aunt, but she is also a member of our organization. And most recently, we have received 2 significant donations from a dear member, Eleanor Ellie Lloyd Hoyser, who will allow us to pay some rent to cover utilities, if that is deemed appropriate. So we're a small town, we offer a lot historically, and to me, we're kind of a welcome center for Hillsdale. And we would like to do more. We would like to apply for some grants and improve the building. And we already have some people we've contacted about redoing the front doors and some other things like that. So we're hoping that we can work together on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Any more public comment? Seeing none, we will close the podium and move into the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we've got approval of bills, city and BPU claims of March 3rd, payroll of March 3rd, city council minutes of March 7th, housing minutes of January 19th, TIPA minutes of January 18th, targeted development minutes of February 8th and March 8th, planning commission, February 16th, BPU AMI gateway replacement, BPU engine 6 intake cooler replacement, BPU industrial substation construction of 4 feeder circuits, Hillsdale College Central Hullapalooza noise variance and alley closure, Hillsdale College noise variance North Student Center event, Hillsdale College noise variance line dancing event Central Hall. Exciting. Is there any questions or discussion on any items in consent agenda? Councilman Breimer.
I have a question just on the North Student Center event for the Hillsdale College noise variance. It's from, I think it said 2 p.m. to maybe midnight on a Thursday. Do we notify people that live in that area, or do they notify people in that area that that's gonna be going on? I know we usually get a lot of flack when we approve things like that on a work day during the week, so I was just questioning that.
I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but I lived down there for years and never got a notification when there was an event, so I'm assuming no.
That is reoccurring, Ray. They had that last year, might have been the first time, and there were no complaints.
No complaints?
The only complaint we ever had was the time they had the fireworks on a Monday or at night or something.
No.
That woke a lot of people. Other than that, no.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, it's really transformed down there in the past 10 years to be very much be a college neighborhood, so I think the expectations are if you live down there, there's gonna be some activity on nights when there's college events going on. Any more discussion on any items in communications petitions?
Consent agenda.
Thank you. Consent agenda? Good catch, Robert. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Beer. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilman Beer,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Sizer,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Soha,
Yes.
and Briner.
Yes.
It's 8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We will move on to communications petitions. Okay. Let me catch up in my packet here. Item A is city brush and leaf collection schedule. This was on Facebook, and I believe it was in the newspaper as well, the Hillsdale Daily News do one. Spring brush collection will begin at 7 a.m. on Monday, April 4th. So it says crews cannot return to pick up material set out late, so it's very important that you have your material on the curb by 7 a.m. on Monday, April 4th. And then yard waste collection, starting 7 a.m. on Monday, April 11th. And once again, the crews won't make a second swipe, so make sure Monday, 7 a.m., April 11th, that you have your yard waste out. And that's grass clippings, leaves, garden waste, small shrub clippings, weeds, and other small items. Of course, brush is for bigger stuff, branches and brush. Second item is, well, before I go on, since there's so many items, any questions or comments about brush or leaf pickup?
Isn't there, Mr. Mayor, isn't there a largest size for them, it's like 4 inches or in diameter for the brush pickup?
I'm not sure about that. Is Jake here tonight?
He is not.
Do you have the answer to that?
2 inches or so. Well, on the limbs? Yeah.
8 inches?
But I think that might have been no longer than. No, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I'll see if we can get a response from Jake. I don't see it on the.
Just wanted that in there.
That's
I
a
know
good
there's a
question.
size limit.
Okay, yeah, per the article right here, Mayor, limbs less than 8 feet in length and up to 8 inches in diameter only.
Ooh, that's.
Tree trunks.
Yeah, no, I mean,
That's a big.
Alright,
well,
anything you can put out would be fine.
Yeah.
But as part of it too, they say no stumps, large trunks, stones, or dirt. As this will really hamper their picking it up, so.
Of course.
And then, of course, with the large thing, between the sidewalk and the street, not in the street. Terrace, facing the large portion facing the street.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Councilman Beard.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Can I add one thing? I'd just like to encourage the community, after we're still getting used to this new leaf collection machine, and it leaves a mess behind, and so I would appreciate it if the community would get out and help us keep the city cleaned up after we pick up the leaves.
Councilman Beard.
And probably one other thing to note for the yard waste collection, the grass clippings and stuff, no paper bags or plastic bags. So you don't have to put them in any bags. They don't want any bags out there, just the leaves and smaller, just.
Yeah, I noticed in the fall, there were still people that put out their bag leaves, and I'm sure we'll probably have that happen at least once more this spring, where we'll have some people that use the bags. So, hopefully we get through that, it becomes a thing of the past. So, item number B, 2022 election council notice. So, if you want to run for mayor or city council, each ward is up for a seat. You need to get your qualifying petitions and have them in no later than the deadline is 4 p.m. Tuesday, April 19th. That's this year, so about a month from now. So if you want everybody to dislike you and get paid for nothing, run for council. If you want everybody to hate you and not get paid, run for mayor. Please. Any questions about that, comments?
No, you said it all.
It's the truth. My poor kids. Item number C, BPU spring hydrant flushing notice. Board of Public Utilities is gonna start hydrant flushing on March 28th. Continuing through Thursday, March 31st, weather permitting, the crews will flush hydrants daily from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. the next day, until all of them have been completed. Any questions, comments about that?
Just people pay attention when they do it, because you're gonna do laundry, you're gonna get surprised if you don't. So it's one of those, you wanna know when it's coming.
That's true. It's very true. Item number D, excuse me, Friends of the Mitchell Research Center email. We've got our guest from the Mitchell Research Center with us tonight, and they are, this is in communications, and they are offering to pay a monthly payment of $500 due and payable the first day of each month to be credited towards the cost of utilities. Is there any discussion on this item?
What is the average utility bill?
400, okay, may.
Yeah, you're okay. Go ahead, Carol.
For years, we tried to obtain the bills, and we were told that wasn't possible. And literally years, when Bonnie's office was here. And finally, at a meeting about a month or so ago, I commented that if we could get the bills, we could figure what that amount was. And there was someone there from the city, and I had the bills that night, and I figured they came to an average of $447 a month. And so I just said $500. So, and presented it to our, at our meeting, so. And I didn't bring those bills, but you know, in the different times of the year, different things are higher and lower,
Right.
yeah, so.
That's utilities meaning water, sewer, electric, all that.
Electric and for heat and air, yeah. So,
I noticed that you guys are requesting, for this to be a written contract for 10 years.
we
How
said
did that
10,
number,
I said 5 years and, one of our advisors from Hillsdale College stopped in and said, you better make that for 49. And so I said, well, okay, we'll take 10. So, I mean, it was just, that's the way it came about, so, but we would, we want to be secure there. We have been repeatedly told that our services are not necessary and that we don't need to be there. And there's been comments of everything being done with the building, from tearing it down to put the dial-ride barn there to renting it out for, you know, apartments or whatever. We think it's a very important building, and it has been here a long time, and it's a gorgeous place, and we would like to honor it. And so we want to apply for grants and whatnot, and we feel a little shaky doing so if we don't have at least some kind of
Sure.
some kind of time.
sure. We did add the Mitchell Research Center, the Mitchell building to our council goals this year, as
Well,
in to
okay.
explore,
Yeah.
options.
And I know there has been discussion over the years about getting rid of it and what to do with it, and I know Bill McRitchie, when the McRitchies donated their $1 million for their intent was that be connected to the library, and we have a lot of documents showing that, but we want it secure, and we want to be able to work on it, so.
I know Bruce
Any
had
other
his hand up.
questions?
Dave, did you have?
I was just gonna say, as it is one of our council goals for the year, I think it would be appropriate to maybe send it to either the Community Development Committee or the Public Service Committee, whichever one, because while this is very much appreciated towards this, there's kind of a bigger issue there of what the long-term goal for that building is, because inevitably, we're going to be looking at major renovation expense, if there are no grants available in a few years. If you drive by there, you see the paint's peeling on the brick on the outside, so there's going to be major expenses. And, we just need to make sure we have a complete plan in place in order to keep that for the long term. Just doing a patchwork, isn't going to be best for the city's best interest. So, maybe taking it to a committee where they can vet it out and talk about it more deeply, and then bring it back to council would be a good idea.
We have had inspections done, it has a newer roof, the furnace has been inspected, the electric has been inspected, and, I mean, as much as anybody can guarantee that they will, maintain a building, we think that it's very necessary for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Well, I would agree with you for sure. It's a very important, piece of our history, and as somebody that actually grew up in Hillsdale, sitting up here, got very fond memories of it as a child, so. Did you have something to add, Bruce?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with the 10-year locked-in price at $500, because when everything continues to go up, that's gonna be, you lock it in there, we could be hurting after 6-7 years and saying they got it locked into this price. I would say a 5-year contract possibly, then explore it then and see where they possibly could go, but 10 years? That's kinda, and when somebody said the the dial ride building would be put there? No, it's, where it is where it stays.
Well,
That's
this
state
was
money.
before, this was your comment, I believe, but this was before the building was built, of the Dial Right.
My comment?
That you'd never been in our building before.
Oh, I've been in, really? I've been in that building when I was a kid too. I've been in that building.
Come again.
Yes.
I've also been up to the 3rd floor. I've been there when Governor Snyder came here.
We've got a lot more information for you to look at. Yep.
Yeah. But to say that, you're misquoting your facts, because I have been in that building more than once over the years. I'm born and raised in this county, so I know the building. It's got history. But I'm just concerned with locking it in at 10 years. That's the only concern I have. I think it's great that you guys are willing to come up and do that. That shows that you're really serious about it, and I think that's great. And I applaud you on that. The 10 years is what got me a little concerned. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Bruce. Councilman Reiner?
Yes, I just had a question for Carol. Does the Friends of the Mitchell Research Center, do you guys have like any type of fund? How is that, I guess, building held? Is that held by the city?
Yes.
Is there any way that the Friends of the Mitchell Research Center would be willing to take over that building if we were to deed it over to them?
I think we had that on the table a year or two ago, is that correct?
It's been discussed in the past, and that would be a legal question, how that could be accomplished, but.
Yeah, even in terms of entering into a lease agreement, there are some legal questions about what the value of that would have to be. Would you have to do it for something akin to a fair market value or not? We have to have a discussion, the city manager and I, about that. I've actually looked at that, so I have some thoughts, but we have to discuss that because that does have some impact in it. As you may or may not know, under Michigan Constitution, a municipality cannot give away public resources for a private purpose. And there are some legal, at least some case law that discusses what is considered a private purpose as opposed to a public purpose. So that's kind of what the
Okay, I mean, that's gotta be
what the issue is.
a historical research center's gotta be a public purpose, it's gotta be.
Well,
If we
actually,
can find
public
ways to
purpose
make
is-
theater fit that.
Public purpose is more narrowly defined than that. It's not what you can spend money on, right? It's giving away the public resource to a private entity for something less than what would be a fair market value.
It is we are a 501c3.
That actually, again, there is a definition of it, and it's more narrow than that. It's generally a service, to put it in a nutshell, that is being provided by someone that the municipality would otherwise have to provide. Okay, but we'll have a discussion about that because there are some nuances that we might be able to talk about too.
And to continue on with that, I appreciate you guys coming forward and offering to pay $500 a month, but I think also too, I wouldn't be opposed to having the bill set up to where the Mitchell Research Center is split out. You guys know what the bill is and you guys paying half the bill and the city being on the hook for the other half of it, because it is our history and we need to preserve it. So I don't think, that it should be on their shoulders to try to get funds from people to pay for the utilities when we all need to be preserving our history in that situation. So where Bruce said, I don't wanna be locked in it for 10 years, maybe we lock in at a percentage of the bill each month. So that way we're, not locking anything in at $500 for 5 years or anything like that. So just a thought there.
This is why we can kick it to committee and we can have these conversations, and the lovely ladies from the Mitchell can come to the committee meetings and we can hash it out further than.
I'm having trouble hearing back here. Could you all speak a little louder and clearer, please?
Yes, ma'am, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, we hear that all the time.
Oh, trust me.
So we're basically, everybody's just stating ideas, and I said, well, that's really definitely why we should kick it to a committee, and then you ladies can come to the committee meeting and we can hash out the details of something that's concrete. So I think everybody's willing to work with each other.
Thank you.
Any more discussion?
I just wanted to just thank all the volunteers that keep the Mitchell Research Center going strong. I mean,
One thing about this community, we have a lot of people who give their time and talents for a lot of good things, and I think there's a number of people who don't recognize that, and they just wanna kind of poke at it. But the Mitchell Research Center is a gold mine, it is an absolute gold mine. And we just, I was involved with it, trying to unravel this thing, and there's legal issues like Tom just said, and how Mr. Mitchell left the deed is kind of questionable on back of the envelope. I mean, there's a lot of veins it's gonna take some people in battle, but we have to save it. I mean, how we do that, what that looks like in the end, but people would love to have something like that in their community. And again, the building is gorgeous, just gorgeous.
It is lovely.
So, but thank you for all the hard work, never ending work they do.
Could I speak something?
Sure. Would you like to take the podium?
I'm Vicki Bird, a volunteer. I just would like to make sure that everybody's aware that we would love to have you all come to take a tour of the building. Okay, some of you have. Some have. We appreciate it. I was there when Mr. Morris, he came one day, so it's lovely to see the ones that's been there, and we'd love to show you the ones that haven't.
And the ballroom at the top is gorgeous.
What's your hours there?
10 to 4, Monday through Thursday.
Go see the ballroom.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion on the item? Shall we move to
Community development.
community development?
Yep, that's the one that should handle it.
Okay, so I have,
Send it to community development to discuss options and path forward and bring back to council.
okay, a motion on the floor from Councilman Soha,
Second.
second from Councilman Sharp. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So did you get that, ladies? Community Development Committee, just check with Katie when they're gonna have the meeting, so you can be there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies. We will move into item E, on communications petitions, Hillsdale Hospital Future Road Contribution. Dave?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As the memo states, at our February 21st meeting, when council held the public hearing for the Linwood, Hall, and Maury Streets Special Assessment District, Councilman Briner had asked if Hillsdale Hospital would consider contributing more towards road work. And I indicated that I would contact Mr. Hodshire, the president of Hillsdale Hospital, and ask him about the request. Based on that discussion, Mr. Hodshire has committed an additional $25,000 for future road projects. We did do, prior to this, the city staff did an analysis of the breakdown of the other methods that one could utilize for doing special assessment districts, and quite simply, you have to do everyone equally. You're utilizing the same method. But that being said, by changing methods from what we're currently using, everyone pretty much bill would go up. So, in fact, the hospital's bill would have been over $200,000 alone. And individual houses would have went up as well. So, again, spoke to Mr. Hodshire about the request, if they would be willing to contribute more, and he had indicated that they would put an additional $25,000 into the road fund for future road projects. That's the pot where the special assessments actually go to use for future road projects. So
Okay.
that's all.
So essentially, we can't assess them more because of the way special assessments work, but they're giving us $25,000 to put into the road fund.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, any discussion on this item? Councilman Briner, good idea, by the way, bud.
Well, I think that'll go a long way, and I appreciate, JJ, for doing that in the Hillsdale Hospital. It's a true definition of community hospital, by doing that and stepping out and contributing more money to projects, or for future projects. So that'll go a long way with the residents that are in that area, and, I appreciate it.
I mean, thank you, Councilman Briner. Absolutely, that's nothing to shake a stick at, $25,000. And they don't have to do it. they're just doing it, so
And it
it's
would
a
be,
big thank you.
it would be in addition to
To the assessor.
the assessment that they would receive normally. So,
Yeah, I think we need to send them a thank you letter.
Yeah, I think so too.
Wonderful. Any more discussion on that item? We will move on. Item F was the Lashaway letter, which, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, basically states that he would like his permit. It says that he paid $600 for professional inspection. The judge said the judge said the inspection looked good and that our code enforcement officer would not accept that would not accept the inspection. He also says that the fire department missed a lot of things and also that he's asking for a use and occupancy ordinance. Any discussion on this item?
That's how about Chief Hector to step up.
Chief? Councilman Sharp is requesting your presence, sir.
Could you tell us exactly what the detail is of the fire department as far as doing inspections, as far as the requirements?
Oh, that's a little vague. What do you mean by the requirement?
What are they looking for when they go on, what is their purpose?
Okay, they're not doing building inspection, they're doing safety inspection off the fire code.
No, they're actually not. I can address that. They actually perform the code enforcement inspections under the International Property Maintenance Code. Most of those items that they do cite, or look at would be overlaps with things that would be fire issues. But they are the inspectors, in addition to Mr. Beaker, in addition to Ms. Thomas, for the code enforcement department with respect to occupancy permit inspections. So I'm gonna make sure that that's clear. When there's a request that comes in, an application for use and occupancy permit, they perform or can perform the inspections, and they often do.
Okay. Because many years back, when I bought a house, the current house I live in, the fire department did an inspection there, and then I was told I had to replace the bathroom window because there was no egress out the window the way it was, the current situation was. I did that, they came back, that was it. There wasn't like 5 inspections or anything, just I met their qualifications and that was it.
And back then, it was probably the Boca Code, and the city went from the Boca Code to the International Property Maintenance Code. I'm not sure what year, but.
But yes, it would be the same process now. The code inspector, whoever comes, it may be a representative from the fire department who's been trained to do those, or it may be Mr. Beaker, or it may be Ms. Thomas. They will come and perform the inspection. If there are items that they know that you have to take care of to bring it into compliance with the property maintenance code, they will note those in the inspection. They give you a period of time to correct those and then to reschedule an inspection to come back and make sure those are all taken care of. That process can repeat until you've gotten all of the issues taken care of and then you're issued your occupancy permit.
So on, if I may.
Yeah.
On the question about a private inspection and utilizing that, that was an issue that was taken up a few years back when Councilman Bell was here. And actually at that time, there was not a private inspection allowed for residential primary residence homes either. That ordinance changed, and I believe Councilman Zeiser was on the committee at the time as well, maybe.
Which committee would that have been? I know that.
Would have been public services.
Public
I
services.
was, yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
So we, at the time, we brought back the council changing that, so the compromise was that it could be used for your primary single-family home residence, but commercial and non-primary residents were not included in that.
Is there some distinction, legal or otherwise, that would prevent us from amending it to apply to commercial structures? Is there a safety issue or a legal issue?
The reason for the distinction and the reason that it was presented initially by Councilman Bell when he was on the council at the time was, when I'm purchasing my own residence, I'm going to be the one living there. I can do work on my building without necessarily getting a permit to do it. If I wanna add lights, if I wanna do some wiring, if I wanna do some plumbing, whatever it might be, I can do that in my own residence. When I buy my building, I oftentimes will get, when I'm buying my house, an inspection of it before I close on the purchase to make sure everything's okay. There's typically an inspection contingency in real estate contracts with purchase of residential property. Mr. Bell's point was, if I've had that inspection as part of the residential process, and I'm the one who's going to be living there, who has to live with whatever these conditions are, I should be able to present that inspection report if I had one done.
Right.
And assuming that passes muster, then get my occupancy permit. With respect to commercial buildings, the distinction is that I'm not gonna live there necessarily, but I may have tenants who do, and other people who do. There's a requirement under the building code and otherwise that you have a licensed contractor perform any kinds of electrical work or HVAC work or plumbing work to make sure that it's done properly, because it is a safety issue for those people who are tenants. And that goes hand in hand with the inspection requirement being one that the city have their inspectors verify that this stuff meets up with the city code. So that's the reason for the distinction between the two and why the amendment did not include commercial property.
So would we then be lawfully barred from amending the current ordinance such that there be some sort of either or clause where you either subject to the city inspection or provide an inspection from the licensed contractor, assuming that there's already a licensure process for the contractor, so I don't know what the validity would be.
Yeah, there is no licensing necessarily that would apply to that type of property inspection. But the council would be free to amend the ordinance as you want with respect to how the inspections were done. So there's nothing legally that would prevent you
Bind us from doing that.
from doing it.
So presumably to be a licensed contractor, you should be up on the codes and so forth, is that?
There are different types of licensed contractors. So I might be a licensed electrician.
Right.
That doesn't mean I know anything about plumbing, or HVAC, certainly. So, and also that doesn't mean that I know anything about the International Property Maintenance Code.
I don't give two spits about the International Property Maintenance Code. I hate that thing. That being said, does the code enforcement officer have the discretion at this time, at this current time, to accept private inspection on a commercial building? Or does it have to be a city inspection?
It has to be the city.
At this time, it has to be a city inspection.
The city.
There can be a designee. You can designate anybody he chooses.
The city.
I just read the code.
The code enforcement official could designate, as they have here, fire department members, or could contract with, on the city's behalf, it would be a contract between the city and a private inspector to do those inspections if the city wanted to. But it has to be done through the city. It's not like you could have your commercial building, you go hire the contractor and have them come in. And with respect to Mr. Lashaway's issue with his building, there has been a judgment that was issued by the district court in that matter. So.
Okay, thank you,
But I need a
Chief.
permit.
Appreciate it. Hold on, Lance, if you wanna talk, you can take the podium.
The permitting process, just so everybody knows, it starts with an application through the code enforcement office. Then the fire department goes out and does inspection. The fire department does not issue a use and occupancy permit. They will only make a determination based on if there are any violations and or deficiencies. If they're very, very severe, they can come back to code enforcement assessing, and the health department recommend that the occupancy ceases immediately due to safety issues.
Okay.
If there's just minor deficiencies, if you will, they mark a box that document the deficiencies, but there's no need to vacate the premises. Then it goes through the reinspection process, and ultimately, it's all paperwork between the fire department and code enforcement office here in the second floor of City Hall, and all the permitting is done through that office here in City Hall. As a matter of fact, the fire department doesn't even get notification that the use and occupancy was even issued.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief? Did you have something to say?
Yes.
It's your, you can take the podium, but I just don't want shouting from the seats to
Okay, I won't shout.
council.
Try not to.
I'm talking about from the seats to
Right, I understand.
council.
So, from what I understand, you guys have the ability to take care of this problem by just amending your ordinance, and then anybody would be free to not put up with the stuff in my letter that is clearly going on, and go get their own inspection done. That's all I'm asking for.
Well,
I think it's pretty simple.
hold on, in case there's questions, stay up at the podium, please. Did anybody have questions for Lance?
No, I have a question for the city, Mr. Mackey and the attorney. Building inspectors, home inspectors, they're not licensed by the state of Michigan, correct? There's no requirement for them to be licensed. They can get a card that says, I'm a building inspector on the card, and that's all they can have, the paperwork there, but there's no license by the state of Michigan, am I correct?
If you are just marketing yourself as a home inspector, that's correct.
Thank you.
That's not what you asked. Is there a license at all?
No,
No?
not to be a home inspector.
Is the fire department licensed?
That's a different thing.
I'm just asking, that was a question.
There is
Are they
no,
licensed?
there is no license.
Okay. So there's no license at all.
Any questions for Lance? Any discussion at the council table? So I'm not opposed to amending the ordinance. That's obviously not gonna fix your problem, because we don't amend ordinances just at the council table by, let's amend the ordinance. It would go to, go to planning, I believe. Do we do ordinances at planning? I'm asking you, our member of planning.
Well, we could recommend ordinances, sure. That would go to Mr. Beaker as a planner.
Okay.
If I may,
City manager.
it's not actually part of the zoning and planning parts of the ordinance, of your ordinances, so it's not part of the zoning ordinance. It wouldn't necessarily be something to go to the planning commission. That might be something that would more be for, the O&G committee or something.
O&G committee or.
Because it's one of your general ordinances of the city.
Public services, maybe?
Public services, perhaps.
I wanted to add, because, when this ordinance was changed, a couple years back, the discussion was, as the city attorney had indicated, if it's your primary residence, you're going to be living there, you're assuming that responsibility. If it's a commercial building, whatever work you're doing, has a higher level, because you have someone that you're looking out for. And what we do not want to happen is we don't want commercial property owners doing their own work. And we do see that, it does happen. And we want to prevent that because, quite simply, they are taking responsibility for others. And, they might not look out for themselves, but we need to look out for those who are renting from them. And that's why that was not, we came up with a compromise when this came up.
If I may, one other item, and part of it has to do with, from what we see from the code enforcement perspective. Mr. Lashway might care about people in his buildings, right? And do a very good job of whatever work that he might have done. That's not, and also with selecting an inspector and having it be somebody who's qualified, that's not necessarily so for a lot of the people that are landlords. and we see on a frequent enough basis that it might scare you, you've seen a couple of them, where there are people living in some of these buildings who have really terrible conditions that they're living with. That's part of what that International Property Maintenance Code, if you were looking for provisions is aimed at. It has certain requirements for those types of buildings. And it also helps ensure the safety of the people who are the tenants there for those people who may not be the best of landlords. And unfortunately, that's the way the system works. If you've got bad apples, the rules are set up to address those, and people who might not fall into that category have to be part of it too, because you can't pick and choose.
Sounds like.
But again, that's up to you whether or not you wanna have that, how you wanna have that work.
And also remember, what was it, 58 and 60?
69 and 65.
69 and 65, if you remember, we had a discussion about that. And that landlord thought his properties were perfectly fine for that tenant. And, you know, they went in and inspected it and had to move them out immediately because the plumbing was disconnected in the basement.
Black mold.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we've paid $50-some thousand to demolish those two properties because of the landlord who wouldn't take care of their properties. And that was on, you know, just a single family or duplex, multifamily rental property. So we do see, you know, some bad situations, and again, like the city attorney said, unfortunately, the rules have to apply to everyone, even the people who do a good job.
Of course. That's all well and good, as long as the government doesn't target people.
So I guess what I would like to understand is what is currently lacking in the particular instance of Mr. Lashaway, and I guess what's the least burdensome way that we can move this one forward? Because I think we have two different things going on. We have a matter of broad principle and on what level we should be burdening people, but we also have a particular situation with lots of strong personalities and bad feelings now. So I have two potential things to resolve.
Let's get this moved along, and just one thing on that. There have been 2 judgments entered by the district court on code enforcement. It's been through the court twice.
Right.
The most recent, it's a judgment of the court. So it's not in council's hands to do something with at this point. What it is the last judgment was that Mr. Lashaway needs to do what is necessary to get his occupancy permit.
And I've been trying to do that the entire time.
He
didn't
needs to
get the letter.
a final inspection through the code enforcement office to address the handful of very minor items which I believe he's
That change from time to time.
have been taken care of so that he can obtain his occupancy permit.
And that
That's all.
inspection would be performed by the fire department as it would have been otherwise?
Yes.
And so then, Mr. Lashaway, is it?
It's my problem that the fire department's been there 3 times. Each time they found something new. Each time I've had to fix something new that they missed.
Right.
And then I was told to get a 4th inspection, and then I fight it, and then technicalities and all that good stuff, and then I go and get a private inspection, spend $600, and then you don't accept a private inspection, and now that I've had a private inspection go through, and he finds things that the fire department missed all 3 times. All 3 times. Simple things, the smoke alarm, things that should have been checked. My building is the safest building in Hillsdale City right now because there's been somebody in there that actually checks stuff. Every building in this city is suspect because of what my private inspector found. That's how serious this is. And I'm tired of the roundabout stuff that's going on.
This has been litigated twice in the district court in full-blown.
Litigated that I need a permit. I'm not saying that I don't need a permit. I'm saying that the process is not right, and y'all know it's not right.
So
please fix it. That's all I'm asking.
So your particular concern, if I may, is that the fire department might find new things and
I don't even want to deal with them.
incur an additional.
It's ridiculous that I should have to deal with them, especially after what has happened.
Again, this has been litigated. There is an order of 2 members of the district court.
That's got nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
Right. he's talking about asking you to amend the ordinance.
Right, so you don't have to repeat
Not
yourself, that's fine.
having to deal with his specific issue, which again, has been dealt with by the court.
I'm here trying to deal with that right now. I need a permit, please give me one. I gave you a $600 report. I found things that your fire department missed.
This council does not give you permits, Lance, and you know that. So
Have somebody give you a
all Mr. Lashaway needs to do is call and schedule his inspection.
That's all I had to do the first 3 times.
Yes, and things changed within your property.
No, they didn't.
In
They
fact,
found
you
things they missed.
came in my office, Lance, and I asked you about a bathroom, and you wouldn't even tell me when that
Bathroom's
bathroom
got
was
nothing to do with the
installed.
fire department.
That's enough. That's enough.
We have these.
I'm done, I'm done.
Then sit down and be quiet, and I'll explain
Oh,
the truth,
okay.
okay?
Go on and character assassinate me then, have fun.
So it's just like the 3 lawsuits we've had from Mr. Lashaway. The city has won every one of them. In this case, we've litigated it twice. And the court has told Mr. Lashaway he needs to get his use and occupancy inspection from the city. And that's been, it will be 30 days after tomorrow, and the judge gave him 30 days to get his inspection. So he's coming here telling you in a letter that he wants his inspection done. Well, all he needs to do is call and schedule it. He fails to do that. And yet he calls he comes here and makes a big ruckus about it. All he has to do is call and get his inspection scheduled. As far as them finding things, every time an inspector goes in, he's not looking at one thing. If he finds something else that's out of compliance, he can write that up. And they have. And as I indicated, Lance sat in my office and I asked him about a bathroom which was in question, and he wouldn't give me an answer
That
when the
wasn't in
bathroom was
question.
there.
You're lying.
If I may talk, Lance.
You're lying.
Can you
I'd
please-
like to move on in the council packet. We're moving on to item F. Excuse me, there's no introduction, adoption of ordinances, public hearing. We've got one item in old business, it's 4th of July parade event right-of-way applications. So this is unusual, and I don't think any of us know exactly what to do about it. We have 2 applications for the 4th of July parade. They were both complete applications. They both have insurance taken out on them, and they were both applied for within a week of each other, which was after a council meeting, before another council meeting. So there was no chance for us to look at one and then move on or deny an application. My point is, they came in basically at the same time from 2 different organizations. One was from Teresa Rutan, who spoke here tonight. As you can see from the comments that were made at the podium, it is linked to the Hillsdale County Republican Party. The other one was filed from Rachel Lott, and it was from the hospital. So we don't have any policy in place for something like this, so I don't know. I wanted to keep it off the agenda and see if the 2 groups would maybe work with each other, but we ended up adding it to the agenda, and so I guess we discuss it at this point.
You promised to
I don't really
read.
know what to do. Councilman Zeitzer.
I guess, first of all, it's a really good problem to have, because we do have multiple groups that are being generous with their time and the planning and the effort. So that's good that we actually have more, not fewer people who are looking to participate, things like that. I do tend to agree with the point that Mr. Rutan and Mrs. Rutan made very eloquently, as well as John Smith, that they did step up to fill a vacuum and kind of navigate through the difficulties of coronavirus. So they certainly deserve credit there. And it is a shame that we can't have some sort of solution that involves both groups. But beyond that, I'm as much of a loss as you are. I didn't realize that there was the perception of bad feelings about it. I think we were all surprised sitting here about that. I certainly wasn't involved in anyone trying to pull fast one, and I give a lot of credit to the Republicans. There's always gonna be political infighting, and the Democrats are gonna say the Republicans did this, and the Republicans are gonna say the Democrats did that, but it has been a very nice event for the past 2 years. So I hope that we can come to some sort of resolution that honors everyone's willingness to put their time and money towards this.
Of course. Of course. Councilman Sharp.
I'm gonna agree with Mr. Wright, with Bill over here on that, because let's go that way. But I've also read what the hospital is proposing. We have one group that just wants to have the parade. The hospital afterwards wants to do community events at the hospital to honor the healthcare workers and everybody else, including the police, the fire department, the first responders. I think that's great, because right now, it's in question of what's gonna happen at the fairgrounds as far as events. Brett Boyd's hasn't stepped up, I haven't heard anything on that. I know the fireworks, there's people working on it, the American Legion, I believe, is working on that. But the thing is, we need to get these groups together to work together for everybody within the community. That's my point.
I wonder then if a sensible solution, and I don't know what any of the members of any of the groups feel, but very often when you have a big event, there's an after party, so if the two could sort of be in conjunction, but maybe the hospital might sponsor or support the satellite events around it, and then the parade organizers could help promote those events. That, in my mind, seems sensible.
I mean, we can come up with 1,000 solutions up to ourselves, but ultimately all we do is issue the right-of-way permit. So, I mean.
And we can only issue one, so.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Can we only issue one? Do we issue them both? Do we issue none? I don't know. We don't have a policy in place for this, so we're just kind of shooting from the hip. Because, Councilman Mears.
I'm just, from what I can gather, the parade route for both sponsors is identical.
Okay.
The date that Teresa submitted it, stamped with the city of Hillsdale City Clerk, was February 24th. The hospitals was stamped March 3rd. Our first council meeting was March 7th. Okay, but my question is, as far as, do we have a representative from the hospital here? And, okay, they got up and said they'd work with anybody. They're willing to work with anybody. The big difference I can see would be the hospitals providing the after party, our donuts and to acknowledge the important work that healthcare workers and the police and fire did during the pandemic. I don't see where there can't be a logical solution where they both could.
I can answer your question at the podium.
Mr. Smith.
Okay, and just my other question on it too, was in the original application, it just had Teresa's name on it, and then in the, so it had Teresa and John on the other document, so I guess, but I just don't see why it would seem like they could both work together, get more people involved. And nowhere in here does it say Republican.
Nope.
It's an individual that's applying for it. And as far as the one group has said that they'd be willing to work with any other group to do this.
Councilman Morrissey?
My view is if it's not broke, don't fix it. If it worked well the last couple of years, why not just give the permit to the group that did it the last couple of years and have them work with the hospital to get these ancillary events going.
You agree with that too?
I like to oppose that argument, for the simple reason, I mean, it is a Republican Party gonna have it. I mean, it's the people who wanna have it, and they've done a wonderful job. I agree with Bill said, when COVID hit, we weren't allowed to have them, they stepped up and did it. It was really great. I guess what I'm looking at, our country is extremely divided now more than ever. And when you put a political party on a parade, you're telling you this is the whatever parade this is. And it doesn't
can't hear. We can't hear.
Oh, okay.
So my point is, the hospital is for sure includes everybody. Everybody goes to the hospital, doesn't matter what party you're associated with. So my concern is when you put the Republican Party on the, marquee of the parade, you just isolated people. You're just going to do it, because Mr. Lashway came last meeting and said, and proved my point, they invited the Democratic Party, they didn't want to be in it. That's my point. But if it was by the hospital, you could have the Republicans, the Democrats, Independents, whoever else wanted to be in it. Everybody can get into the parade, but it's whose banner is it under? And my argument is, if you put it underneath the Republican Party, it's limited. If you put it underneath the hospital, it's open to the entire county. That's my point.
Councilman Reiner.
I will second that too, just because, businesses, they're not going to say, hey, we wanna be a part of the parade if it's under Republican, or hey, we wanna be under it if it's Democrat. You draw a line in the sand, is the thing, with businesses and local businesses and people in general. So that's, if it's a personal, putting it on and there's nothing political about it, I'm perfectly fine with it. But when you make it political, you draw the line in the sand, and you divide the two people. Hillsdale's mainly Republican, but there are Democrats too. So when you put the Republican on a banner, it makes it look like it's a Republican parade. So that's where you draw the line and you divide the people. And whether or not, they invite Democrats, they're not gonna go. It's just.
Well.
Yeah.
Boo-hoo, wah, wah. I mean, come on. If I invite you to my house for a birthday party and you don't show up, is that my problem, Ray?
We don't have a banner that says American Patriot.
If you, hold on, is this Republican Party putting the parade on, or is it Teresa Rutan?
It is Teresa Rutan sponsoring the Patriot Parade.
But it's the Republican Party, we got the secretary over here speaking for the parade. It's not called what it isn't, it is put on by the Republican.
It is, it's sponsored, it would be just like if it's sponsored by Hillsdale Hospital, it would say sponsored by Hillsdale Hospital.
Okay.
If it was, like I said before, ABC Company, sponsored by ABC Company. What makes a difference if it's sponsored by the Hillsdale County Republicans? It's not a Republican rally, it is a celebration of the 4th of July, which means we are independent, we have our independence. And we have not heard any complaints about the Republican Party being a sponsor of this independent parade. It's a patriotic independence parade. And don't forget, you're reading John's email.
Yes, ma'am, I will read it right now before we go. I don't know why we're in the business of choosing who gets to have a parade and who doesn't get to have a parade. That's my issue. What do we do?
Our feelings either way.
Like that one, I mean, the worst people have one. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the past, we've had a slew of different people that have stepped up to the plate to do the parade. And they've pretty much been able to do it until, for whatever reason, something came up that they weren't able to do it in the future, at which point you allow a new group to come in. And I think you can't dismiss the fact that for the last 2 years, this group has done it.
Mayor, if I may, just one thing that you guys need to also keep in mind, as this is said, or the application says it's for Teresa Rutan, and this is hypothetical, Jack, but Jack could show up here tomorrow and file an application for the parade for next year, and based on what you're saying here,
First come,
first serve,
That's what I said.
he would get it.
About 10 years.
Yeah, so.
Actually, I'm gonna do Hillsdale Street right by the college. I want that whole mile right there.
And we know Jack would do it, so.
Can I please read this letter from John Rutan, as it was asked to be put in the packet, and I forgot. There has been some misrepresentation, in my opinion, as to CAPM 137. I called a national authority on this regulation along with an expert on the Air Force instructions to ask the question, can the local Civil Air Patrol participate in the 4th of July parade? It was being put on by a political party. His answer was yes. The regulation stated above prohibits them from being in uniform for overtly political events, not patriotic events. After all, it is a parade to celebrate one of the most patriotic events in history, which is the 4th of July. The parade is not to hail the party organizing it, but the patriotic 4th of July. This national authority just happens to be my cousin, General Gene Rutan, retired United States Air Force. He happens to be on the regional commander of the Civil Air Patrol covering 5 states, South Carolina to Delaware, all on the eastern seaboard. He has given me permission to share his phone number with you. If you would like to call him and confirm, he lives in North Carolina. His number is a Virginia number, 804-413-3744. My second point is as follows. The first application turned in was by Teresa Rutan, a member of the Hillsdale County Republican Party. The application was filed by an individual, not an organization. She will be using volunteers from the Republican Party, her family, and friends. Hers was the first application to be turned in. In 2020, when I put my application in for the parade, I was told by the city manager that my application had to be complete or it would not go before council to be voted on. And that if someone else turned one in before me and it was complete, theirs would be the one voted on. The manager at the time inferred that this was the policy. He also inferred that the completed application, once filed, would be put on the agenda to be voted on by the next city council meeting. Now we found out that there is no policy in place for what is happening now. My third point is as follows. I picked up the parade in 2020 when the former organizers were too afraid to hold the parade. When I filed a completed application and it was voted on, the former organizer tried to slander the parade by claiming that it was a campaign stunt, even though I did it as an individual and mainly as a veteran and a patriot that was not going to let the 4th of July celebration go unnoticed out of fear. Liberty is not safe, it is in fact dangerous. Then in 2021, the same group of people sponsored the parade in which volunteer fire departments showed up and the American Legion, groups that have similar regulations as CAPM 137. They participated and we would invite and welcome the Civil Air Patrol to come and participate this year as well. It is their presence in that patriotic celebration that nets them new members typically. We wouldn't want them to miss that opportunity. Thank you, John Paul Rattan. Please enter a copy of this into the official record under correspondence for the meeting dated March 21st, 2022. Now we can continue our conversation.
Thank you.
Did you have something, Ray?
Yeah, so before, COVID, the parade was always called the Great American Parade.
Yes.
Was it ever like sponsored by anybody before then, or was it?
It was, I know that 2021.
How is our name attached to it, by the way?
Yeah, our Republican Party never.
We don't have a banner with a name on it.
It's put on by a person, an individual, and then it's the people that.
If you guys want to take the podium, I don't want any more of this talking from the seats and yelling out.
Well, I wanted to answer a couple questions anyways. Over at the fairgrounds, the Legion is taking care of the fairgrounds, just so you guys are aware now. Because they wanted to step up, I guess Brett Boyd had some issues.
Speak up.
So, but there's nothing attached to the Hillsdale County Republican Party, other than that majority of those people are gonna participate in the parade. So that, there's no like banner that we have that says American Patriot Parade attached to the Hillsdale County Republican Party parade banner, if you will. So there's nothing that's attached there. The first people that walk in is American Legion. So it's about liberty, gentlemen. It's not about issues. And you could has a lot of sponsors, local business owners and stuff that give us money to help us out. We planned on pushing all of those businesses. So you could, like you said, Adam, you could either come or not come. You know, it's really up to you guys. But at the end, we're not being exclusive. The hospital could still do every single thing that they said they want to do. There's no reason not to. So that's it.
If I may, yes, Mayor, you have to be careful if you're making a distinction as to whether or not to grant a permit for a parade, if you're doing it on the basis of somebody's viewpoint, if you're doing it on the basis of their political position. I mean, from a constitutional perspective, that's problematic. So really, you want to be careful if you're making that part of your criteria.
What do you mean?
Well, because you don't want to be in the business from a constitutional perspective because
very good.
of their
Thank you.
point of view.
Thank you.
Right,
Yep.
which would be because they're the Republican Party.
Of course.
Right, so what? Because if you use that same thing and the Democratic Party came and wanted to sponsor a parade too, you know, what position are you in? You can't pick and choose between people's viewpoints.
Well, that's why that's why this is a stinker. I mean, this is really.
So I wanna make sure that you're aware that sounds like perhaps you're treading into that territory, and you really shouldn't do that.
If the parade is, organized under the name of Mrs. Rutan, and it has a nonpartisan name or theme, that wouldn't be problematic, right? Because council here, this is a nonpartisan body.
What,
but
I think
I'm
you might be
registered Republican.
flipping what I'm talking about. What I'm
Right, so
talking
I'm
about is
reversing the calculus.
You should, this party, because it's might be sponsored by the Republican Party.
You're supposed to be nonpartisan.
That's what I'm saying.
Because constitutionally, you would be, in effect, putting a restraint on their,
Inhibition
on their
freedom of
speech,
association.
right? On their ability to, assemble, on their right to use, as anybody else should be able to, those, public facilities. Your criteria should be something that has nothing to do with that. Right?
Which I'm gonna relieve you of that, because I'm pretty sure there's a big misunderstanding on what's going on. A person is putting the parade on, it's called the Great American Patriot Parade. The people that tell people where to go, the flag people, everybody else, most of them are involved in the Republican Party. It's not the Republican Party putting the parade on. They are helping. That's all we're doing. I never said that. You can check your tape. But what's being pushed is that certain people think that the Republican Party is putting it on.
But even if it was.
But even what, that's his point. Even if it was the Republican Party putting it on, you guys can't say anything because you're supposed to be nonpartisan. But the thing is that it's not the Republican Party putting it on.
It's supposed to be nonpartisan, it's because of the Constitution.
It
Yeah,
has to
you're
do
supposed
with
to
the right of freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, or your First Amendment.
And you can't deny it. But I'm saying it's not even that far, because the Republican Party's not putting it on, we're just helping. And that's the misunderstanding that's being right here. That's all I wanted to say.
Councilman Beard.
But we have a group that wants to do it, and we'll involve anybody else that wants to be involved in it. And then what do you usually have at parade? And I think we're trying to read too much into this. He's trying to take what the people organizing it, because they're involved in the Republican Party, that they cannot do something outside that Republican Party.
Sure, I'm a member of the Republican Party. I mean, I'm not trying to say anything about anybody. I'm trying to figure out, do we grant 2 right-of-way permits, or do we grant no right-of-way permits? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
What do you do?
What?
What happens if you do?
I don't know, that's what I'm
They'll show up and say,
trying to
I mean, can we do 2?
That's the only question in my head, is
Maybe
not.
3, maybe 4.
You could grant however many permits you wanted to. The issue, that would be among your criteria, you can pick between. Your criteria shouldn't be who's sponsoring it and what political strength they might be, or what other kind of point of view they have. But
To discuss it, but I wish these groups could just work together. I mean, I think we've suggested a number of practical.
And this group has said that they would.
Right.
We just don't have a
There's a
representative.
willingness, and, I think sometimes, some of the people who are involved in politics at this level are outspoken, so then people don't like them, but that's a personality issue, which is different from a willingness or to have the aptitude to do it. They've done it 2 years. It's been nice.
I do want to add one more thing. In the hospital's application, they are making donations to the city for the cost of the police department to be there for reserves and stuff like that too. So that does cost us money to have our police officers barricading and stuff like that. So they do have funds to offset that, which I noticed that in there too.
Mr. Mayor, I understand JJ sent a letter saying he'd be willing to work with whoever, so, if that's true, then maybe we could ask him to help out that way.
Well, I know for a fact that
that the other group that put it in definitely did not want any sort of division or any sort of arguments or any sort of, anything that they wanted to do it to bring the community together. I know they definitely didn't want, any sort of fight over this. I had talked to some of the organizers after our last council meetings, and they had told me that they were hoping that it wouldn't turn in, that they would just walk away from it if it was gonna be a big argument. And I feel like that's what we're defaulting into, and it's shameful.
I totally understand the party issue, but what Ray just mentioned, if one party is willing to cover expense to the city, is that a factor?
So if you are going to choose between two applicants, you're gonna select one, you can use whatever criteria you want to use as long as you are not looking at things like their political views.
Yeah, right.
Or, some other aspect of their views, or anything else that would be constitutionally not up to snuff. So if it's, what are the resources, what is their plan for traffic, where do they wanna do that, how does that fit into, is it a place that's easier for the city to be able to administer a parade in terms of safety, and it's sort of an ad hoc kind of thing, but those would be legitimate things that you could consider.
But one party offering resources is a factor?
It could be.
Okay.
That wouldn't run you afoul of the Constitution necessarily.
Okay, that's it, thanks.
So,
Let's just hope that both parties can sit down maybe and
I
work
think
it
they
out
can.
and bring it to us when they do the next meeting. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, then we have to go with what the majority wants. I think that's the best
One more
solution,
thing.
Madam Mayor.
Teresa, did you have
Okay.
something to add?
I just wanna get things straight. Okay, so are you saying that you would like us in the hospital to have a discussion and you'll table this until your next meeting 2 weeks from now? Is that what?
I mean, I don't know.
So,
We approved the right-of-way permits up here, and, how anybody organizes their parade is most certainly not the business of the people sitting up here, unless we are also involved in the organizing effort as individuals. So, I can't advise you on how to proceed.
well, I'm not asking you to. I'm asking, is this tabled for 2 more weeks until you have your next meeting?
Yes, we're not
Okay,
gonna
that's-
vote on one of them.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
I move that we table this to vote on it in 2 weeks.
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Morrissey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, new motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Beer. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilperson Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp.
Yes.
Stuchel.
Yes.
Sizer.
Yes.
Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
Councilperson Soha.
Yes.
Reiner.
Yes.
And Beer.
Yes.
8-0, it's approved.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move to our next item, new business item B, land division 237 East South Street. Dave?
So this is just a lot split that has gone to the planning commission and has been recommended for approval. So with that, that would be some consideration, as Mr. Morrissey, if you'd like to.
Yeah, there's just one thing in that form there that's kind of misleading, and I asked about it at the planning commission. If you noticed item 2 on the land division review checklist, it looks like the zoning, it looks as if you just read a use that's been there for many, many years. And so he had to check that box because it's a non-conforming use, but the zoning board has made no attempt to block this in any way. And that's on the basis of that, we approve it. We recommended it.
Sounds good.
Yep.
questions for Councilman Morrissey?
I just had one question, though, on those 28 Lakeview Look, the back, there's an alleyway. Is that not an easement issue? I mean, they still get access to the property without any issues?
There's no, I think we discussed, as I recall, we discussed that too. Commissioner Swan is also here, she's nodding her head, and we discussed that, it's not,
Okay, so it's not an issue. Okay.
Any more questions, discussion?
Am I allowed to vote?
You have
Well,
not
just trying to make
sat in a
sure.
quasi judicial.
Okay, I've got it, yep. Just wanted to make sure.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
For, you hit it.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Beer. Can I have a roll call vote, please, City Clerk?
Councilmember Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Sizer,
Yes.
Mayor Soccer,
Yes.
Councilperson Soha,
Yes.
Briner,
Yes.
Beer,
Yes.
and Morrissey.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move on to item C in new business, Freedom of Information Act appeal. This is the first one of these we've ever done. Mr. Hendy, filed, Joe, do you wanna come to the podium?
I sure do.
Mr. Hendy filed for a Freedom of Information Act.
Yes, me.
He was invoiced 5 hours at 18 per hour,
That's not the problem.
and 800 copy pages at 10 per copy for a total of $170. And Joe got a hold of me and I told him he could appeal it. He wasn't happy about the price of it. And I said, all I can tell you is you can appeal it. That's the only option.
That
that's
is
at our
correct, Mayor. But the problem here is, I FOIA'd that Plant Moran audit once before, but I asked for it to be redacted because I was unaware that I could actually, under the FOIA laws, be able to see those names because they were city employees, so I'm entitled for them. David withheld or Mr. Attorney over here withheld 744 pages from me the first time I FOIA'd it. So good job. Because they missed names. So I might as well be entitled to those names if you're not gonna do your job correctly. Right? That's how I feel about it. If you're not gonna follow the law, then why should you charge me? Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. So, is that true? Did he not get his full
Well,
things that he FOIA'd?
well, I guess it's not a simple question, because the first time was over 2 years ago. And as I put in the packet, his request the first time was actually different than his second request. And if you're not going to let me speak, I'm not gonna talk.
I'm interrupting you.
Dave.
So,
That's my fault.
and quite simply, a lot of work goes into them. So, that being said, I don't know, Tom, if you wanted to add anything to that, but I feel that, we've provided him with 800 pages and the amount of time, which took the city attorney's time, the HR director's time, my time, Plant Moran's time, and all these people's time to process his request. And we provided to him unredacted, and that's what the cost was. Tom?
All I would offer is, I wasn't involved in any redaction of it originally, so Mr. Hendy keeps pointing at me. but
Well, I don't,
I didn't have anything
I'm
to do
just
with
trying
it.
to get to the bottom of this.
But I also would point out that originally, these documents were related to the investigation that was turned over to the Michigan State Police at the time, I do believe. So that had something to do with the redactions originally, and also that, if that was the request.
The
then that's
investigation's
request that
over.
what we're seeking. And
I'm sick of every damn meeting being a circus. It's embarrassing. It's getting ridiculous. I'm embarrassed and ashamed. So you have to be very specific when you make FOIA requests.
Plant Moran is an auditing company. I asked for an audit report, it's the same thing.
Yes, sir. I'm inclined to believe we provided him with his request and cost the city time and money to produce and print the material, and I'm inclined to let the charges stand.
Is there any more input?
I agree. Because.
Some of it was duplicate, but it was unredacted, so.
Okay.
The first set, the 56 pages or whatever
He's
it was.
gonna pay now or later, right?
Yeah,
So,
yes.
he's not doing charge, I guess that's what I should say, he's not doing charge.
And, just a question, we do have the, fee schedule on our website.
I don't know if the fee schedule, the application is there, I don't know if, but by statute, we are required to charge, the least administrative wage, and that's the $18.
I understand that, but, I believe the statute also says that it has to be, on the website, does it not, Mr. Thompson? Fee schedule?
There should be well, not necessarily the fee schedule, but what there should be is cost, it's got lines for each particular charge. And some municipalities use that, and if they do, typically they'll put that on their website too.
That would be good to have.
Any more discussion on this item? So I kind of feel like we charge everybody the same thing for these. If we were inclined to give a discount to somebody, I would say they would need to be a city resident, which Mr. Hendy meets those qualifications. And David is also correct, these FOIA things take a lot of time. They take a lot of administrative work, and knowing that how government works, they probably should take 5 hours and they take 12 hours, so, but no matter, to proceed, I've got Bruce and Councilman Soha saying to let the charges stand. Does anybody feel differently? So do we vote one way or another? I've never done one of these before. A FOIA appeal, does a motion get made and then it moves forward as we grant the appeal or we deny the appeal?
Yes, so that would be, the motion would be to either a motion to grant the appeal or a motion to deny.
Okay, so we needed a motion.
I move to deny the appeal.
I second it.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Sharp to deny the appeal, which would be that would be denying the, reduction in price. Courts. I'm ashamed at how these council meetings have been, the last 2-3 meetings. I'm embarrassed. From now on, if anybody speaks out of turn, they'll get one warning. If there's more than one warning, you will be removed from this building. I'm so sick and disgusted with the behavior in this council chambers. This is a business meeting, this is a body of government, and it will be shown the respect that it's deserved. So, thank you for, same with council. Somebody from council wants to speak, raise your hand, please. We're gonna act like grown-ups up here. I can't believe it. Every meeting gets worse, everyone. So I guess I have to crack down on the rules and act like a parent, which I don't wanna be, but related to Mr. Allen Beaker, as far as I know. I know he doesn't even live here, he's a licensed pilot. He was referred by Ginger, and then Jacob Bruns, I asked Jacob to. We've got 3 empty seats on the Zoning Board of Appeals. We've got a couple people, so if you guys know of anybody that's willing to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals, please send them my way. Jacob lives in Greg and Tony's ward. He's a young guy, lives over on Hillcrest. Great young gentleman. Yeah, so, I don't know, any discussion you guys wanna do?
Just do it.
All three at once, or?
Yeah, I just wanna say, obviously, I know Don German, he works with, is it Sue Smith from the EDP or EDC, very closely, very knowledgeable in, business as far as that goes, and grants and stuff like that. So he's a very, good person to add to the Economic Development Corps, so, for Hillsdale.
Yeah, podium's now open.
About the parade, if it comes down to who's gonna donate the most to the city, I'll throw $1,000 into the one pot to make it even. I mean, this thing needs to be, this, and I've said this many times before, and everybody just blows it out because they say, oh, no, we're not that way. The social discrimination in this town is terrible. I mean, and you know, it's like, oh, we never had slavery or anything. We never did that in the United States. And that's what's going on here. Everybody's like, oh, we don't have any social problem. It's like, and I'm gonna just say this, Mr. Socia was talking once about the people at the Hope House. There's this group of people that walk down Broad Street and that. The same way with the people at the Hope House. I mean, what's going on here? Why can't we all get along? I mean, it's like, I was up here speaking at the last meeting. I'm glad you said council is going along with the one notice, because when I'm up here, somebody says, I don't lie to council. A person on the council said that, interrupting what I'm talking about, took half my time. I don't understand it. Why can't people be social and get along? I mean, it's ridiculous. The library, and I've said this and I'll say it now too, I made the suggestion that the city should give it to Tifa. Let Tifa redo it and let you ladies stay there. They're charging $500 a month right across the road to a company that's not even from around here, but yet they won't do that for us to the grand opening, because I said I would bring homeless people. You got a homeless place right in the Tifa district. Why not let those people come here? I mean, what's the difference? It's a public building made with public taxes. I'm sure at some point in their life they paid taxes. They have a right to do that too. I mean, it's ridiculous how discriminative people are about if you're not in their social group. I've even bought breakfast for somebody that I cannot stand at all, because they're just disgusting. Everything they say is disgusting, and I actually bought them breakfast just because, and that's the way we should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Any more public comment?
On the airport committee, Mr. Mayor, you said that he wasn't from around here. We don't have any requirements that question. You know, the reason we have so much divide here is because we have a bunch of so-called Christians that want to profess Jesus, but they walk with the Pharisees. And that's it.
Thank you. Any more public comment?
Evening. Robert Eichler. I just wanted to bring up the Open Meetings Act. Not to try to change anything, and you guys would do that, with those that are handicapped. If you know that they are, or as well as that they are asking for, of an extension of time to be able to speak, whether it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And if you can see that, then what was it in, I don't know how far back it goes, that this that the very first 5 minutes, I think they've used it for many years, that I understand, but when was it enacted that they would take the Open Meetings Act and say that those comments that you want to make have to be only what's on the agenda? And that's what I was gonna, hopefully you guys, I know you remain muted, but I'm just trying to bring up the question of where it comes to. Again, the Open Meetings Act has been somewhat of an importance, even at the county commissioners as well, and at the road commission, so it's becoming a challenge that we get a clear understanding that if you start stifling the people, the public, and you have great numbers of things that are on the list here, and so if that can't be compounded by someone speaking here for 5 minutes, there's no way. You folks have the opportunity. Sure can't bring up every subject, or several subjects anyway, to speak on them for a lengthy amount of time is what you do. I just say look at consideration and see what we are on our side have to look at on the outside. And again, thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you, Bob. The agenda items only comment section is not an Open Meetings Act requirement. It's something that we do as a courtesy to our constituents, to give them the opportunity to have input before we vote on something. Open Meetings Act only requires that we have one public comment section where you can speak on anything you like. So we actually have two up here. And the other thing that I would say is that the agenda comes out on Thursday. So if you do have things that you want to input, you're always free to email or call members of this board to discuss it with them.
Seen any hiccups that will prevent that. For you, Bruce, we are getting a proposal here. I'm hoping in the next week or prior to the next meeting from the gentleman who actually installed this the sound system originally. That's still in town. He's putting together a proposal to update the audio and video system in the council chambers. We're hoping that that price comes in favorably. And then, just to kind of make you guys aware of a public hearing, we're gonna look at holding the first meeting in May. We're going to be looking at applying for a $2 million CDBG grant to replace water main within the community. We've got a lot of 2 and 4 inch main, which is all very much undersized according to all standards, which is 6 or 8, and with $2 million coming from CDBG funds. So that public hearing is tentatively scheduled for May 2nd, as the application has to be in by May 13th. So, so we're hoping that we can put together a good application on that. Additionally, we have received our first claim on the flooding in the Wildwood subdivision. So that claim has actually been forwarded to our insurance carrier who insures the airport property, and they will address that accordingly. So those are the items I had, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. I do know that that I talked to Commissioner Ingles, and he had said that the residents over on Wildwood were just unbelievably grateful for the work that the city did over there. So just wanted to say thank you for that, even though they're not officially ours. Any questions for Dave?
Yep.
Councilman Sharp.
PA system, we're working on it so you guys back there can hear us. Trust me, it's been my pet peeve for, oh, don't worry, Penny's holding me to it too. We will get it fixed soon, we hope. So don't give up on us, because summer's coming, the air conditioner's gonna run, we definitely need a PA system that works from here. Because if not, Penny's gonna go over and shut it off, and then we're gonna die in here. So. But thank you for the update.
Any questions for Dave? Any council comment? Thank you, Dave. Councilman Soha?
So I'm inclined to allow and vote for Teresa's application. What I don't understand is why you guys are pushing so hard, like we're trying to be this ugly group of people who don't want you to have a parade. I just don't understand that. And so I hope that you can work with the hospital and the college and come up with a nice solution that will celebrate these United States. As far as code enforcement, I'd like to speak to that. I really want, and I wish Mr. Beaker was here, but if we're gonna enforce the codes of think they need to be enforced equally among all businesses, and, not having the appearance of targeting, because things that have happened recently definitely give that appearance. In addition to that, I agree with the mayor, and we're not a corrupt body politic that are trying to milk the city of Hillsdale for anything. We volunteer our time. This is probably $100 what the city pays. It's insulting. I'm just, to hear with the insults coming from the pulpit on us who, we are serving the city to the best of our ability. We are not corrupt. We are not liars. You may not agree, you may not like the way things happen, but I don't agree that you brought that business downtown. And I hate you slandering me in that email. Nobody's spoke, no, my turn. Nobody's spoken against. And I found another place for the Hope House. And she said from that podium right there that if I found her another place, she'd be willing to move. And when I called her, she said, no, I'm not willing to move. We have not said the Hope House is bad. Never, not one time. As a matter of fact, we have applauded those men for trying to better their lives. But I have said it's not the responsibility of the community to just embrace them. It's their responsibility to earn our trust because they made bad decisions and they betrayed that trust. And as a good neighbor to the other businesses downtown and to the farmers market that's about to open up, as a good neighbor, you, Lance, should endeavor to find another location for those people, just to make and be a.
Thank you, Councilman Soha. Any more council comment? Councilman Morrissey.
Just a quick report from the Planning Commission. One of the things that we did was to we're going to do a public hearing on that development, residential development in the industrial park. And we saw a sketch of the proposed development that looks very nice. And it's really going to be, if it gets done, we'll see if it gets done, but if it's approved by all the various authorities, including ourselves initially, then what we're going to do is have a very nice development there. We could potentially have a very nice development there.
It's great news, Councilman Morrissey.
I've seen the plans, they look nice.
Yeah.
I'm not prejudging anything.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
There's just one more thing. If the day of the meeting, I didn't have time to look at them. I don't have time to form a good response. It's not really fair to us. And I'm guilty of the same thing. I've done it on a Monday afternoon. So I understand time constraints, but I would just appreciate in the future that consideration that the agenda does come out Thursday afternoon. So.
Any more council comment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Morrissey to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned.